Zona, Grappler, Rushdown, Shoto. Long ago, the four archetypes lived in harmony. Then, everything changed when the gimmicks arrived. Only the Shotos, masters of all things balanced, could stop them. But when the world needed them most, they were nerfed. A few months ago, a man released a video about these archetypes, a fighters player named Gecko Squirrel. And although these videos taught people the basics, there's a lot more left to learn. But I believe he can milk this for everything it's worth. Let's talk about complexity. Like in any genre of competitive gaming, in fighting games there's differences between each individual character on a roster, and though some of them can be small enough to be classed as negligible, you can still generally see characters who share a playstyle, but go about it in different ways. Some characters will do it in very simple and generic ways, and others will have unique quirks that change the way they approach the game. This in fighting games comes in many different forms, but there are several of them that have been used across many different games. For some of these, it has become so common that players have created specific archetypes just for characters with these abilities. In the past 4 videos, I talked about what I believe to be the main archetypes that make up fighting games. However, these can be seen as the 4 most prominent playstyles that players use. From here on, we'll be talking about more specific archetypes that are mostly unique to fighting games, and thus they'll be more complex and weird. However, I decided to pick what I believe to be the most basic of these. Also, some of these videos may be shorter than normal, and I apologize for that. As a stinky Dragon Ball player, I don't have too much experience with some of these archetypes. Okay, thanks, I love you, bye!
This is the stance!
In different types of combat sports, you'll see people position their bodies in different ways in order to make dodging attacks easier and throw their opponents off. This is most common in Taekwondo, in which competitors will occasionally switch the foot that they lead with. So it's no wonder that when fighting games added Taekwondo characters, they were able to change which stance they were in to gain new attacks, or change the properties of their existing attacks in order to throw off their opponents. Extrapolate outwards from this to a man with 2 heads fighting for control over his last brain cell, and you get the stance character archetype. Stance characters have their mechanics in their name. They're characters who are able to take on different stances in order to gain access to new moves, different properties, or entirely different playstyles altogether. While most of them are generally stuck to one of the archetypes we mentioned before, some of them are bi-archetypal and are able to change the playstyles on the fly. For example, let's look at Idol from Killer Instinct. This man has 2 heads and they both want different things. I believe Jury is a fascinating rushdown character who excels in pressure and mix-ups due to her V-skill, and even though she's low down on the tier list and thus not competitively viable, I believe it will lead me to enjoying Street Fighter V in the long run. Evil Lady Go Kick, make brain happy! Just like the me you see in the videos and the me that actually does all the uni work and pays the rent, they share a consciousness that switches between the two of them. It's not something the player can control, however, it'll happen at random. The player can increase the chance of the stance switching, however, by smacking the shit out of the other head. So that's how I get your other hand to wiggle. I should write that down. Idol is an interesting stance character, as one stance is an intellectual who excels at playing the neutral and zoning games and believes fighting is for simpleton and brutes, and the other one is me. This means the Idol player needs to be prepared at all times for a random switch to happen and be able to adapt on the fly to this new playstyle. However, this is the exception to the rule. The majority of the stance characters just gain new abilities from it. For example, Zeku from Street Fighter V can change stance to turn into fucking Strider, and all of his abilities change. The difference between these two is pretty obvious. Not only is Zeku's something he has full control over, it doesn't change his playstyle drastically. It mainly expands on his rushdown oriented playstyle with extra combo options and different moves to advance at different points on the screen. There's one more property stance characters have where they're able to gain extra unique properties for their stance. So, gonna fucking do it. It's about time we talked about, come on bitch, you know you can't not talk about it, Dragon Ball V Guilty Gear. What the fuck? I was going to talk about Hit here, but I have since been informed that despite him saying, this is the stance, he is not classed as a stance character, so no Dragon Ball today, guys. I'm sorry. It's weirder for me than it is for you, trust me. So instead, let's talk about this fella. I know very little about Guilty Gear as a game, but I do know that this man is the embodiment of fundamentals. He's the rushdown god. He's fucking brain dead, and that's amazing, even though he has fucking charge inputs. Why would you do this, Arxis? If it wasn't for the fact that in a mere few months I'll be stolen by Giovanna and forced to learn how to enjoy Strive so that I can see the toe beans on her shoes to fill the void in my heart, I'd probably learn this guy to fight the fucking charge inputs, Arxis! But yeah, Leo has a stance where he puts his swords behind him in a cross like, no buddy, this is my no-no zone. And he gains unique attacks while in this stance, and is able to do specific stuff that I definitely know as a Ghillie Gear expert. But all that interesting shit can wait, cause look at this! Whoa! What? Oh my god! He goes right through you! He can't normally do that! Look at him go! This is the unique property that Leo gets from his Brynhilde. It's really hard to say. Stance. He's able to crush you up by simply dashing through you, which leads to mix-ups. You could say that it's a mix-up stance. Mix-up stances are specific types of stances that generally belong to the rushdown versions of stance characters, in which characters are able to get more specific moves that make it hard for the opponent to block them. These are generally fast-hitting high and low moves, and is mostly referred to as the blender. It's called the blender because if it works correctly, you won't be coming out the other side in one piece. This is another tool that helps rush down characters with their offense by forcing their opponents to guess what's coming next and making it as vague as possible, though games generally have ways to get around this. And that's mostly stance characters. There are of course more examples of what stance characters can do, and if you know them, feel free to share them in the comments. Thank you for watching, I'll see you next time. Dear Gecko Squirrel, firstly, as the honourable gentleman I am, I must congratulate you on the outcome of our last bout. However, I shan't concede so easily to a brute like yourself. You should prepare yourself for our next encounter, as I shall not go so lightly on you next time. Yours sincerely, Lord Alexander Richard Humphrey Snooty the 12th. Wait, who?